Recent headlines have grabbed our attention. Headlines like these: the New York City skyscape covered with the smoky sky. Where are the fires? How is the smoke moving? What's the outlook for summer? All of those questions answered straight ahead. So where are the fires? Well, we have a ton of them going across the country, also down in Mexico and up into Canada. The problematic fires from a wildfire standpoint are these, the ones up in Canada and mostly those in Quebec. That wildfire smoke has been driven to the point where it's heavy across the skies. You've seen the pictures, especially here across New England, stretching out into the Maritimes, up toward Greenland. There are other pockets where the smoke is quite thick as well, in central Canada and off to the west. You may remember Denver had some of the worst air quality in the world back in May from similar wildfire smoke that covered the metro area. Remember the post headline we talked about on Weather 5280? Similar setup. Let's compare New York City smoke to Denver smoke. So as we look at these two images, the first is showing the smoke on the 7th, which is when New York City had one of the worst air qualities in the world. Now let's go back to May when Denver had some of the worst air quality in the world. At least how satellites monitor the depth of smoke, optical depth. It was heavier back in the May event when that smoke came all the way from BC and wrapped in the northern states around Denver and off to the east. So what's driving this pattern? It's a pattern that's very summer-like, started off in May, and it's very El Nino-like in some ways. So we've chatted about that in previous videos, but we've had this high pressure area dominating northern Canada. We've had lower pressure off into Alaska and the Aleutians, as well as the East Coast. This is a pattern that will evolve a little bit throughout the summer, but bottom line, it stays relatively close to that. What's the result of that? If you have high pressure sitting over Canada, let's zoom the map in, that corresponds to very hot temperatures. Been very warm, much warmer than normal across Canada, parts of the U.S. too, but our weather has actually been more moderate. Into Canada, though, very hot and very dry. La Nina has not produced much water for Canada the last 3 years, so it's already dry, and then we've thrown in the heat on top of that. What's the outlook look like for the summer months? With El Nino kicking in, we're not going to necessarily have a ridge, a high over Canada. We have one that kind of develops over the Pacific, although it will lose some strength as we get into fall and winter, and the kind of dominating area of high pressure will likely be somewhere around Greenland. What that's going to do is still going to be to drive warm temperatures across Canada, but it will also grab that smoke reminiscent to recent weeks where it grabs that smoke and grabs it over Hudson Bay, grabs it over Quebec and Ontario, and continues to drive it toward the U.S., mostly off to the east. But we also will be watching out for the fire threat, not just across Canada, but across the U.S. as well. We have an increased risk of wildfires. So let's chat about that. So the seasonal weather forecasts for wildland fires, okay, they were released early this month, and you can see the red areas, okay? That is where we look for increased activity in terms of wildland fires, at least the potential of. Below normal there in California, the Great Basin, into the Southwest. That makes sense. They had a very wet winter. Now let's get into July. As you look at July, we're losing that below normal potential. We're losing the green shades because we're drying out. We've already added some of the smaller fuels like grasses and things to that area. And the outlook, as we've talked about previously in other videos, still is kind of break even, almost dry in this area. Across the northern tier of states, and as well as Alaska, above normal fire conditions there. For August, looking at above normal fire danger for the Pacific Northwest, some of the northern plains, the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, into New England. As you look at September, the fire potential remains across the Pacific Northwest, decreases elsewhere, still below normal, however, for the Sierras. Throughout the summer and into the fall, the snowpack we picked up last winter really means nothing. It's the frequency of precipitation that keeps fires at bay. And that's why the wildfire risk is not only strongest where we're driest up into the northern areas, but we'll have to watch out for prairie fires as well. From the June and May growth, all those grasses, if they dry out too soon, we're going to have prairie fires. What's the outlook for precipitation like with El Nino? We chat a lot about El Nino officially starting in that last video.